My name is Daniel, and today we're going to be talking about Eli Hops and tricks like them. So, Eli Hops, in their most simple term, simple state, are from a trapeze and launching the yo-yo forward while bringing your hands together after they've hopped off the string. Looks a little bit like this. They're super impressive tricks for yo-yoers and non-yoyoers, but they're surprisingly simple once you understand the concepts. Now, if you haven't learned this already, it's not necessary, but the feeling of doing boingy boing can actually be kind of helpful in learning how to do rhythm-based tricks like this. Again, it's not necessary, but it might help you with developing consistency. Now with Eli Hops, again, the goal is that once you hop the yo-yo off the string, like this, that you bring your hands together as the yo-yo comes out. This makes the trick seem a lot more, it improves like the presentation of the trick. It makes it look a lot more impressive, a lot bigger, and it also can make it a little bit easier to control in some ways. Some people will do Eli Hops very quickly, and that's perfectly fine. However, a more traditional Eli Hop, the hands should touch. Now, not everybody does that, and that's okay. However, if you are trying to do Eli Hop variations, sometimes that actually can be quite helpful. So, you have your standard Eli Hop. Again, you hop it off, bring your hands close together, touching if you can, and then you bring it right back to the string. Especially as you're learning this, if you haven't developed a lot of calluses on your non-throw hand, I'd really recommend using a glove because you're going to get string burn really fast. Because it's sliding across your hand constantly and very fast. Now, what are some Eli Hop variations? So there's an undermount version of this. I forget what the name is, but it's a very similar trick. This one's definitely more similar to boingy boing, but the idea is that you start more or less in kind of like a brain twister mount, but instead of mounting underneath, you leave the yo-yo up here, and you launch it forward, keeping your non-throw hand stationary and bouncing it back and forth with your right hand, or your throw hand in a consistent rhythmic motion. Now again, you can also bring your hands all the way together for that one if you'd like to as well, but I find that to be a little bit awkward for that variation. There's also other types of variations for this. For example, you may throw in a different mount, so when you bring it back. So for example, you could launch it out and catch it in a mount you would find in Quijubo, like this. You could also do it on the other side of the hand, like this, which feels a little bit like a split bottom mount. And one of my personal favorites is to do it over the head and back. You may have seen from some of my videos that I tend to have a trick that I like to do where I combine a few of these. So I tend to go over the head, back, out, to the side, and to the other side. Now I don't always land on that last one, but you get the idea that I'm bouncing the yo-yo between different parts of my body. And that's something that as you get used to Eli Hops, you can experiment with some different ways of doing it, different parts of your body. Some people will do it under their legs, some people will do it around their arms. There's a lot of creativity and possibilities with Eli Hops and tricks like unto them. So biggest tips are, again, if you're just getting started, make sure to be wearing a glove or recognize that you're going to be getting a lot of string burn really fast and be okay with that. In the long run, developing the calluses will be worthwhile, but again, more power to you, and sometimes string burn just sucks. So gloves are great. Um, while you're doing your Eli hop, another thing that can be helpful is as you're doing it, to kind of align your vision so that you can see the gap of the yo-yo very clearly in line with the string. And make sure that as you launch it out, you try your best to keep the yo-yo in line with the string. This makes it a lot easier to both launch it off the string and not tilt, and then also to catch it back on the string repeatedly. If your yo-yo does start to tilt, it's probably because as you're launching it out or as you're catching it back, it's hitting the sides of the yo-yo. It's not quite landing perfectly, so it might be hitting the sides along the way and causing it to tilt a bit. And you might find that your yo-yo starts to go a little bit horizontal. If that's the case, slow it down and make sure you're looking at the gap, trying to make sure that you're landing it right in the center of that gap. Another helpful tip would be to use a wider yo-yo if you can, especially when you're first learning. But as you're doing more difficult variations, wider yo-yos can be very helpful. There's no specific width that's necessary, but in general, if you're using a wider yo-yo, it's easier to catch these kinds of tricks. So that's Eli Hops in a nutshell. There's a ton of really great tutorials out there on it. So if you need some additional help, make sure to look into some other tutorials. I know Yoyoexpert has a great tutorial on Eli Hops that I used to learn back a long time ago. So again, hope this was helpful, and have a good one.